Hey YouTube, it's me, it's the man who likes to RANT, dropping a brand new VID for you today, and I'm prepared and ready on this day to continue our walk down memory lane in regards to the Royal Rumble. Now, this next one, the 1990 Royal Rumble, it holds a special place in my heart, because this is the event that actually started the Wrestling Ranter down his path of fandom in regards to professional wrestling. Back when I was a little boy, Dad had seen that I'd watched Saturday Morning Superstars a few times and saw that I had a bit of an interest in it. So he happened to comment that the local video store had many types of VHS recorded events. And being a young lad of, 91, about 9 years old, I'm like, what kind of black magic is this? And why have I not been aware of it? But this is the first event that was brought home. The 1990 Royal Rumble, coming to us from the Orlando Arena in Orlando, Florida, and I just have to tell you, this is the first Rumble that truly feels like a polished experience. So let's get right into it. First of all, I have to note a change of commentary from the first few years. This would not be the normal team, but this time commentating we had Jesse the Body Ventura and Tony Schiavone, who you might know better from his time in WCW, as that's where he spent most of his wrestling career. The dynamic between these two, they had moments where they were friendly, but for the most part, I really thought that Ventura, in both times I heard them together, really sort of was more of a bully to Tony Schiavone, so that part I did not approve of, but you didn't come here to hear about that. You wanted to hear about the card. So let's get it started. We start off with a tag team match featuring the fabulous Rougeau brothers and the unorthodox team known as the Bushwhackers, or as Jesse Ventura affectionately referred to them, the Marching Morons. This tag team really surprised me, because they really got over, at least they seem to, with the fans, since everybody's doing this, and that's kind of the standard Bushwhacker walk, and I'm just like, how is this a thing? But I realized society was completely different in the 90s. They got over everywhere else they went. 27 tag title reigns for the Bushwhackers, which is why they probably got in the Hall of Fame. Interestingly enough, however, 0 tag team title reigns in the actual WWF. The Rougeaus were one of my favorite tag teams because while they were bad guys and they were via their actions in the ring, at least on the mic they gave the appearance of trying to be nice. You could tell they were disingenuous, so you didn't actually believe them. But they were the first team to kind of flirt with being what we affectionately know as tweeners. I'm going to fight like a heel, but I'm going to talk like a babyface, and we're going to see how that works. The Rougeaus never accomplished anything really big. They were the tag team that you put in because they were solid workers, and they would put over the more popular tag team, which in this case was the Bushwhackers. Ironically, this match would end after the Rougeaus, I believe it was Raymond Rougeau who took the battering ram to the gut, which is Luke grabbing Butch by the head and them both running into their opponent's stomach for the win. A good solid match. I will give the Bushwhackers credit because for most of the match, the Rougeaus worked over their backs, and they really did a fantastic job of selling the fact that they were in pain from the consistent Rougeau brother attack. So, nothing but good things to say. Next match would be, ironically, two people who have a connection to Hulk Hogan, who I'll talk about a little later. Brutus Beefcake, who's like Hogan's best friend, or at least was for a long time. I don't know where their relationship status stands these days, because Hogan's burned a lot of bridges over the course of his career. And the Genius, whose real name is Lenny Poffo, and if that name doesn't ring any bells to you, he is the brother of Macho Man Randy Savage. The Genius was never really that athletic, and he certainly wasn't as good in the ring as Macho Man. Few were, because when you think of big names in the 80s and 90s, the first three that should pop into your head is Hogan, Warrior, and Savage. Safe to say that Lenny didn't get the athletic ability of the family, but what he did have, he was a fantastic mouth, and he could antagonize people, and the Genius turned him into that snarky, I know everything and you don't, so it was great. Brutus Beefcake is synonymous in WWE with almost being at the upper, you'd call him an upper mid-card. I'm struggling to keep my thoughts together here, but upper mid-card for Brutus, because he had a few sniffs at the Intercontinental title, but never got it. I'm going to put most of the blame of that on Honky Tonk Man when he was going through his, I don't want to lose on TV because I'm the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion. Can you tell I really didn't like Honky? But these two went on and had a match. I mean, it was Brains versus Braun, and in Vince McMahon's world, Braun will always win. Just look at how much thicker Beefcake was muscularly than the Genius in this match. Ref takes a bump after I can't remember if it was the Genius or Brutus collided with him in the corner. While the ref was out, Brutus attempted to cut Genius's hair and was doing a pretty successful job at it, and all of a sudden, Perfect comes down and just when I say Perfect, I mean Mr. Perfect, who was Genius's running buddy, comes in. He really waylaid into Beefcake, and this was at a time when, if you watch this event, you would swear Mr. Perfect was on his way to a big push. And in a way he would be, because when Warrior would win both the Intercontinental title and World title at WrestleMania 6, he would of course have to relinquish the Intercontinental title, and Perfect would pick it up. But that's as far as Perfect got, and I think that was largely due to someone playing creative control, but I'll get into that in a second. Just a brutal attack. I remember watching this as a kid and being horrified, because Brutus did a fantastic job of selling all the shots to the ribs. Just a lot of pain. You could see him writhing. I think they even had to stretcher him out, if I remember right. Let's see. Genius goes away humiliated. Nobody wins, because it was decided that since Beefcake was illegally cutting hair, and with the interference from Mr. Perfect, there was a double disqualification. Perfect and Beefer would go on to have a match at WrestleMania 6, but that's neither here nor there. We also had some chicanery. I call it payback, because they cut to the $1 Million Man in the back, who is complaining about the number he drew, because if you remember my 89 Royal Rumble, I talked about how there were suspicious circumstances around the fact that $1 Million Man had drawn number 30. Well, this year they turned it around on the bad guy, and he would draw number 1. This was rare, because we had at least the number 1 and the 30 spot were revealed before the Rumble match itself. This is not a common practice, although we would see it a couple more times in the course of the Royal Rumble. $1 Million Man's not happy, but he claims that he's going to be the first man in the ring and the last man in the ring. So it is what it is, and I will say, jumping just a little bit ahead, that DiBiase did have a very credible performance. In fact, he was this year's Iron Man in that he went the longest. and this was the first year that somebody really attempted to keep track of how long people were in the ring. And this would be a running theme for the rest of the Rumbles, and still is to this day. So, like I said, this just lends to the fact that this is the first Royal Rumble that really feels like a polished event. Like, this is the kind of show that they are wanting to put out from here on forward. Slight break in the action, because I'm going to briefly cover the Brother Love show. Oh my God! Like the first time I sat down and watched a Brother Love skit with my buddy Mr. Rodriguez, we joked that is either a lot of makeup he's wearing or he has really, really high blood pressure. Fortunately, it was found out that it was just a lot of red makeup. Because this guy, he's just one of those guys that you see him and you already don't like him, and as soon as he starts talking, you go, God, I hope this guy gets his butt kicked. It was a funny segment because Brother Love's a heel, and his guests were Sensational Queen Sherry, and Dusty Rhodes' manager, who was called Sweet Sapphire. Ironically, both these women are dead, but given the events from this era, there's actually a lot of wrestlers and managers at this point who aren't here anymore, and that is incredibly sad. It was Brother Love and Sensational Sherry being rude to the large woman of Sapphire, who finally smacks Brother Love in the face, and actually Macho Man comes down and makes it look like he's going to hit Sapphire, and then Dusty Rhodes comes out, and this sets up their brief little program that they'd have together. It would be done by SummerSlam. Just because a lot of things were happening, by that point, Dusty had just about finished up his contract with WWF, and he was on his way out. Macho would ascend further. I like the rivalry, I really do, but unfortunately, it was given such a short time frame that I feel it was really rushed. So that's that. Our next match we had heel Big Boss Man versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I just have to say that while I do have respect for Hacksaw Jim Duggan, he did not do much to make you not believe all the negative stuff Jesse Ventura said about his intelligence, just by the trouble he was having saying the word approach in his pre-match interview. If you haven't seen it, boot up the network and go watch it. I can't help but laugh my butt off every time. It was unique when I watched this match the first time, because when I got into wrestling in 91, Boss Man had already changed from heel to face, so when I saw him as a heel, I'm like, well, this is different. And he was good. Boss Man is one of those guys who had the ability to flip the switch. And what I mean by that is, when you were supposed to love him, you loved him. When it was time for him to make you hate him, he was fantastic at that too. So, really a lost art. I mean, most of the guys these days don't have that ability, or if they do, they aren't given a sufficient enough platform to show it. Let's see. Duggan wins by disqualification after the Boss Man attempts to hit him repeatedly with his nightstick, and the third time, as Duggan's rolling out of the way, the referee catches him, and ding, 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 we caught you, you're out, and Boss Man's accosting the referee along with Slick, and then Duggan clears out the ring with his 2x4. Frankly, I think that left a little something left to be told, which they might have finished up on Superstars or house shows. But as far as big pay-per-view events, this was the blow-off match in the short rivalry, so it was what it was. we come to the Royal Rumble match shortly after that, after some, you know, I'll call them inconsequential videos where people talk about how they're going to be the one to win the Rumble. Real quick, I want to talk about conspiracy theories for just a second, because rumor has it that Mr. Perfect, who actually drew number 30 for this event, which I believe was set up only to further his moniker of, look at this guy who's supposedly the perfect athlete, and he's so perfect that he drew the perfect number. As I understand it, that up until this event, the day of this event, I should say, Perfect was under the impression that he was going to win this Royal Rumble. But then when he got to the arena, I guess Hulk Hogan had played his creative control card, which I don't know if he had, but he had used his position in the company as the champion to say, no, I'm going to win this Rumble. Which surprises me, because at this point, the Rumble meant nothing. Winning it, other than the fact that you supposedly got a bigger payday, according to the announcers. But especially if you were the world champion, which Hogan was, there was no reason for him to have to win this. No benefit other than he wanted Hulkamania to be on the big stage. And really, Mr. Perfect, either way, actually I'm being unfair, because all that is a conspiracy theory, but in the end, Mr. Perfect would end up being irrelevant, because the big setup was to see how the crowd would react when it came down to Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior, the two big baby faces who are over as crap at this point in the company. And they wanted to test the crowd reaction. What would happen if these two guys who you're supposed to like fight? Well, imagine that it got a huge pop, and everyone wanted to see more, which would eventually lead us to the main event of WrestleMania 6, which, by the way, still stands as my favorite WrestleMania to this day. Hogan would eliminate the Warrior and the Barbarian, so that would further set up the rivalry. Fantastic. Perfect would be the last guy in the ring with Hogan. Big surprise. Hogan knocks Perfect over the top rope and wins, and Hogan is winning now the first of his back-to-back Royal Rumbles. Like I said, because of the sentimental value, I love this show. I would give it an 8 out of 10. Certainly much more polished than the previous two I've talked about in my Rumble retrospective. This is where the Rumble really reached its golden point for the next 3 years, is when it really took a place of prominence. Plus, this was always the event that let you know we were getting close to WrestleMania. Something that still holds true today, although with recent entries in the Royal Rumble saga, it has fallen far from grace. But we'll cover that as we get later into the Rumble retrospective. Also, I want to take just a few more seconds and say, for those of you wondering, hey Ranter, where's your review of WWE Fastlane? Let me save you guys some trouble. Except for the Chris Jericho AJ Styles match, I thought the pay-per-view sucked. It was better than the first Fastlane, but given the fact that there's only been 2 of them, I'm not all that surprised. You're supposed to build up hype for matches you're going to be seeing at Mania, but nobody cares because everything is so bland and predictable. Now, yes, I will say the large rash of wrestling injuries has played a role in predictability. But if you have a capable writing staff and capable management, you should be able to find a way to work around this. Anyway, that's all you need to know in regards to Fastlane. Ranter's gonna get off this soapbox. I'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye.